Okay, finally we can come to close session. And before closing officially, we still have 3 very important keynotes to give an address for our FTA conference. And a older friend started with a very old friend and long-time collaborator and Regent Batako and from India, and he is the founder of Balipala Foundation. He is from business sector, but his passion was the green development, green economy, and the recycle, and also huge program for tree planting in Northeast India in the Himalaya region. So without further delay, I think Regent is going to give very important keynotes and for our closing. So, Regent, floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Janshu. You've been absolutely an inspiration, and I love your spirit. Never say die, always go up. Good day, and thank you all for organizing such an impactful conference and gathering in what I believe is a very critical aspect of the ecological recovery for the world today. And the conference is aptly titled Forest, Trees, Agroforestry, and Diverse Sustainable Landscapes. The conference over the last 2 days has not just been exciting, but inspirational and phenomenal that so many scientists and leaders were together. You see, without science and without citizen sciences, we really cannot progress this whole delivery of making the world a more neutral place for ecology. Forestry in agriculture systems represent an investment in actually ecological infrastructure. And that can increase farm income and high value products in diversity to create resilience in communities. There is a huge potential for people to bridge incomes gaps and actually restart the world economy. But our political and private business leadership has not yet given as much emphasis to this as they should and as we should. The great social and income disparity of society can also be reduced with agroecology and biodiversity as an important pathway for prosperity and productivity. I take this opportunity to thank CGIAR, old friends of mine, CGIAR research program on forest, trees, and agroforestry, and the Kunming Institute of Botany, a place which I really consider a temple over the last few years for actually regrowth and reforestry in the world. I respect what they do and what they are doing. The Chinese Academy of Sciences and Research Institute on resource of insects of Chinese origin, but also for the world, especially Professor Zhu, who has been working tirelessly with not only the people in China, people in Africa, but also people in India, along with other colleagues from the Kunming University and the Kunming Institute of Botany, along with us at the Balipara Foundation, to help multiply the impacts of agroforestry. And our joint mushroom program has been an absolutely great success, both for ecology and also for the people there. We are losing species at an unprecedented scale and rate. And unless we don't stop this decline, we will be heading into what's called the 6th grade extinction crisis. 6th grade extinction crisis. The loss of biodiversity is a result of a combined factors of climate change, pollution, exploitation of land, sea plants, animals, and the displacement of some species into new territories. Humans have had a very big hand in all of this. The biodiversity crisis is just a fraction of the public profile of climate change. Yet the risks to humanity are comfortable, but this is the climate crisis. Technology is showing great promise, and therefore technology is absolutely critical in neutralizing the biodiversity challenges. The explosion of technology from genomics sensors to GPS, set of videos, and as well as methodology like crowdsourcing, machine learning, artificial intelligence has enabled the biologists to get more data in ways at different scales and resolutions. There is a problematic move towards poaching and destruction of plants and species. These are driving many of them to extinction. We definitely need to use the social media revolution to capture such information, and therefore the importance of AI applications beyond detecting poachers and models that detect logging of illegal forest trade and other species. Technologies like these aren't the only innovations that are having an impact on conservation. In recent years, the field has grown rapidly with the use of everything from camera traps to radio tags on the rise. One group is using LiDAR spectrometers mounted on airplanes to map forests and everything in them, down to the species of individual trees and the carbon content. While sensors are helping to monitor and protect species, computer models can help understand what is driving the degradation of different ecosystems and can help design solutions as well. This conference is one such conference, which is the integration of science, citizen sciences, and botany, other than the entire value chain of Earth and living. Having biodiversity and ecosystem model is absolutely essential. There's no debate about it, because they allow us to explore the consequence of our actions and to predict what might happen if we follow different pathways into the future. Biodiversity and ecosystem are supporting us human beings through natural processes, like things like seed dispersal, pollination, control of agriculture pests, regulation of disease. And so we need to know what is going to happen in the future. We can't do this without these models. The ecosystem modeling still has some way to go. We need a lot more time and resources invested in modeling by the rest of the ecosystem to bring states of ecosystem modeling to a level that it can use as much as that of climate change. We need to the world where we are to launch things at a scale for biodiversity perfection. I think we have an urgent need to start doing things now, and we can't wait to train new generations. We should be doing this as well and in parallel. But what we really need, our bridge builders, we need people in the funding world who understand enough about technology and who understand enough about conservation to get two groups to work together. We need people who are in the funding world to understand that they have to be able to take risks. The science of ecology and conservation should be producing brand managers like they do for products like the big corporations globally. And we should be moving towards solving problems by attracting the best talent in the world. However, technology is not the only answer. It will be solved by conservationists and forest planters like everybody in this room. Not everyone is going to like technology coming into the solving some of these problems because it is disruptive, and we sometimes celebrate terms like disruptive in high-tech cities like Silicon Valley. But we have to remember it is actually not a good thing for most people. Unfortunately, the problems that we are facing are big, and we can't wait for everybody to agree. We as a world need a portfolio of approaches that include some of the high-risk, crazy technology ideas, and yet take away the humanness and naturalness from our lives. We should never do that. We should never take it away. Technology is also going to remove predators at the moment, and it may suggest that the changing condition of the habitats are but in its humans who will have to take action. Technology is not the answer to really understand life, and technology and computation approaches can help us to sort this data, find patterns all over, and the data to provide some basics for hypotheses of what is going on. But the deep understanding about what is actually going to come from humans, from scientists who are studying the system, and really understanding the need to adjust the decade-old, centuries-old models and types of data that actually need interpretation in a world of seeing the world. Beyond scientists and policymakers, we need to understand the scale of technology. It has to be accurate, and this has to basically protect life on Earth. That's absolutely critical. It's fair to say that right now, humanity is on a trajectory heading off the cliff, and we do not have an environment unless we have to do an environmental U-turn, and technology can help us tremendously by focusing on what we save and how well we are doing and saving this. But it can never take the place of the courageous action by all of us to try and save humanity. Try to save the wildlife heritage and the biodiversity species that we still have left on the planet. Thanks to the explosion of technology, this is absolutely possible. The real difference of solving the crisis, but they can never do so on their own, as politicians and businesses finally have to wake up to the biodiversity challenge. It remains to be seen whether they are trying to do for, it remains to be seen what they're trying to do for climate change will be done for biodiversity even faster. This is also the decade of biodiversity. Why should it only be the decade of climate change? Without biodiversity, you already have a challenge on the climate change. Having attended these very informative sessions in the last few days and reading the summary of the sessions, I will try and encapsulate some of the points that the science conference on forest, trees, agroforestry, and diverse sustainable landscapes has been able to achieve. There are many points actually that are relevant. I think the whole conference is very relevant, but I will just highlight some of the main points. The details of these points can be circulated in the interest of time. One is policy, information, and farm landscapes. This is absolutely critical, because if you don't have policy, if you don't have a policy on valuation of nature, you don't have a policy. You need science and research to be regurgitated in a way that they've done for climate change. And therefore, this science has to be citizen sciences too. Integrating agriculture, forestry, conservation, agroforestry, reforestation, and ecological corridors is absolutely critical. We done an article in the Science magazine in which he said India and China have no business to talk about a border which is not ecological. We should be talking about ecological borders as something for the world. It's humanity's borders. It is not a border of two countries. It's not a geography. It's not a political border. It's an ecological border for which we all need to actually change the restoration of the world. We must restore, rehabilitate, and conserve. I really love these points because I think that's what has come out. But there are 3-4 more points which made very big sense to me. One is wild crops, focusing on integrating farming systems, which Mountain Futures is doing, both for livestock, enablers, edible foods and fruits. I think this is something which needs action. We also talk about soil to reduce tillage and indigenous farming habits, which will actually help us to reorganize our lives rather than go in for mass businesses, which is the modern way of doing better, brighter, faster, cheaper. That's not the only way, because we're destroying the world by doing for better, brighter, faster, cheaper. Look at the rubbish, look at the waste management. Tree taxa, very important point that has come out in the conference, and this has to really address focus, very scientific related, but really related and down to the communities and indigenous communities. Agroforestry value chain management. This is absolutely critical again, rather than having a goal, investment in tree diversity is the means to achieve the entire goal. Sustainability of wood products. If we don't sustain our wood products, bamboo sustainability and wood products, we will be absolutely destroying more reason why there'll be more carbon in the air. Forests can also be used for entire emission reductions and programs for the naturenomic civilizations, as we call it. Trade and biosecurity, trade and investment should be completely linked with the entire biosecurity of their products. You have waste, that's not biosecurity. 2/3 of the world is oceans. Look at what is there in the oceans. You've got plastic soup. You've got absolute poison. 1/3 of the entire process of protein management from fish is totally endangered and destroyed, primarily because of human greed and waste of the what we call the better, brighter, faster, cheaper economy, the FMCG revolution. Through the ages, we've used natural resources to surge economic growth. This use, overuse, and misuse of nature has eventually put us, all consumers and resources, on the verge of destruction, if not extinction. We have been projecting the need of naturenomics wrapped in this interdependence between nature and economy. Visualizing an ecologically regenerative model of economy propelled by nature asset creation to securitize land, energy, waste, water, air, and carbon. This, along with mountain and rural futures, is our experimental living lab for the Eastern Himalayas. Do come, partner with us, see what we're doing. Congratulations once again for organizing such a meaningful, action-oriented dialogue. We've learned a lot to go in action. Thank you, Kunming, and thank you, all the organizers. Thank you.
Thank you, Jin. And I saw the elephant in your back on the wall. And by the way, there's a 15 elephant passed by Mountain Future side, and then 50 kilometers far away from my home in Kunming. So you have to teach me how to ride the elephant. So
right,
and I don't know
we send them to you.
What's the elephant to check 500 kilometer landscape from tropic to the temporal high altitude in Kunming. Yeah. So thanks, wonderful speech, and always comprehensive and inspiring. And without further delay, I'd like to invite the second keynote, and Leng Wang. Leng Wang, I learned him more than 25 years ago, and you can spend 20 minutes to read his CV, and also 2 days to elaborate his story, how he loves agriculture, loves trees. And so without further delay, and I'd like to give floor to Leng Wang, and also our key partner, and also recently he visited our field site in Honghe, and thanks for his timing. Welcome. Yeah.
Thank you, Professor Sun Hang, Director General, Kunming Institute of Botany, Chinese Academy of Sciences. Dr. Tony Simons, Director General, World Agroforestry Center. Dr. Ranjit Bhatakar, founder of the Balipara Foundation. Dr. Vasant Gitz, Director of the CGIAR Research Program on Forests, Trees, and Agroforestry. And my dear friend, Professor Jianchu Xu, Joint Professor and Principal Scientist of ICRAF and Kunming Institute of Botany, Chinese Academy of Sciences. Dear colleagues, friends, the theme and the timing of this international conference could not have been more important and appropriate. The conference is organized as a part of the road towards COP15 to be held in Kunming later this year. It is also a milestone of the CGIAR-China partnership, as well as a unique science initiative and a long-term effort of the CGIAR research program on FTA, the World Agroforestry Center, Chinese Academy of Sciences, and the Chinese Academy of Forestry. At the UN General Assembly in September 2020, Chinese President Xi Jinping declared China's commitment to reaching carbon dioxide emission peak by 2030 and carbon neutrality before the year 2060. This commitment has profound implications to the country and certainly in the entire food and agriculture sector. Such fundamental changes required to achieve the target will undoubtedly encounter unprecedented challenges. I agree with the statement of this conference recommendation, or one of the recommendations, that the significant potential of agroforestry to contribute to achieving China's carbon neutrality goal has not been fully recognized and is certainly underinvested. The FAO Sustainable Livestock Program and Agroecology Initiative, which I had the opportunity to oversee and advocate during my tenure as the Assistant Director General of FAO, and the CGIAR FTA program, have demonstrated many exciting models and novel production systems developed in silvopastoralism, silvo-agriculture, and agroecology around the world, and the under canopy economy in China. Let me say though, when I visited the Mountain Future Center led by Dr. Jianchu Xu in Honghe of Yunnan province, China, I was truly impressed and inspired by the vision and the mission and the remarkable achievements of the center in a short 4 years' time. Dr. Xu and his wife, together with a team of international scientists, spent an average of more than 240 days in a year at the center site in the deep mountains of Honghe. To have built the center from basically a barren mountain to a greenly center with research, training, and living facilities, as well as infrastructure for future productions of novel fruits, food, mushrooms, fiber, medicinal plants, and even fish. The concept of achieving all 3 dimensions of sustainable development in environment, economical, and social sustainability at the same time is so well synthesized and demonstrated at the Mountain Future Center. Colleagues, sustainable use of trees and agroforestry is based on sound understanding of the species and the ecosystems. The Mountain Future Center has taken a holistic approach to incorporate biological biodiversity conservation, sustainable utilization into a continuum from the landscape scale to species as well as the genomics levels. The China National Gene Bank, which I'm heading now, and the BGI Research Institute worked with the Kunming Institute of Botany to have endeavored to develop a digital botanic garden in Ruili, Yunnan province, as the first phase of the 10KP, that is 10,000 plants global initiative. About 1,093 tree samples covering 689 vascular species in 49 orders and 137 families were sequenced, and the data is made publicly available at the CNGBDB, which is our database. Now, the over 100 scientific presentations and posters at this conference builds a rich information and knowledge database. The conference has also built a foundation for further collaboration in innovation, not only among the organizing institutions, but much beyond to other CGIAR centers and the CRPs, research and education institutions, local governments, and all stakeholders in China and the world. The word partnership is so boldly underlined throughout this conference. I hope that the recommendations of the conference would really turn to bold actions like the Mountain Future Center has shown us all. With that, I want to thank you very much for the opportunity of sharing my thoughts with you at the end of this wonderful and productive conference. Thank you.
And I still remember our agreement. I lead my team, most from this room, to visit your National Gene Bank. And we're going to have an agreement to work on microbiome to support the tree growth and the landscape restoration, and also make a benefit to local people and the local livelihoods. So, and thanks again. And also your visit is inspiring, and also your network is global, worldwide. And thanks for, encourage us to put the link to South-South collaboration of FAO, and also with the Chinese government support. Thanks, Wang Lin, and again, and I will come perhaps next month if a COVID situation is better in Shenzhen. Yeah. Now, finally, I'd like to invite my DG and Tony Simon. And Tony is unique because if I don't want him, he never appear. When I need him, he come out. And I still remember 2 years ago, and he listened to us, and he was in Mountain Future site, and hopefully he comes with us very soon. Tony, floor is yours, and we're waiting for you. And yeah, thank you. Let's welcome Tony. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Jianchu Xu and colleagues, to the Honorable Professor, Kunming Institute of Botany, to Dr. Ranjit Bathakar, to Professor Ren Wang, to colleagues, friends, and others meeting in China, physically and also virtually, to celebrate the work of the partnership, the Forestries and Agroforestry program that is looking to wind up the last 10 years and to chart the next 10 years. So reviewing the 7 keynotes and the 36 parallel sessions and the 6 themes of the workshop, together with the poster sessions, it's clear that the demand for the work that the partners have been doing, the need for it internationally, nationally, and locally is incredibly important. I'm speaking to you from a meeting in Switzerland, in the mountains. So Jianchu Xu, you would feel very much at home with your Mountain Futures program there in Honghe in southern Yunnan province. And yet many of the issues are the same. How do we reconcile interpretations and actions to protect, to restore, and to better manage biodiversity, land use, land resources, etc. I think the participants and organizers of your Congress in China should feel happy that the relevance of the work to these international processes is incredibly pertinent. When we consider that 85% of all terrestrial biodiversity is associated with forests and trees, why are we so shy in recommending trees as biodiversity indicators, recommending them as health indicators for the status of biomes, for habitats of individual farms and countries? Let's look to the future. Let's assume that we achieve everything we want to achieve in the international processes this year. We've launched the decade on ecological restoration. We have a CBD COP 15 coming up, COP 26 in Glasgow at the end of the year, the delayed land COP, UNCCD COP 15 as well. So we keep the momentum going, we have new commitments. And what do we have to look forward to? Well, likely within 2 years' time, many food manufacturers will be putting food labels of CO2 data on their food packets. Probably in 5 years' time, we will see that as well for water. Now, maybe it may take 10 years' time to have a biodiversity indicator, to have a biodiversity metric on a food label, but what would that be? And all of the data sets and methods and approaches and protocols and standards that the scientists and development partners are either working on are going to lead to being able to report that in a meaningful way. So countries and companies, civil society groups, and even individuals need a lot of clear guidance when it comes specifically to biodiversity and the way that we manage land, those land users, land resources, land uses, and connect those to what we think are prosperous societies and prosperous habitats. The 6 themes could not be more relevant from this conference: agroecology, tree diversity, trees and the CBD, and other international processes, the mountain ecosystems that Ren Wang and Jianchu Xu just spoke about, land restoration, and the circular economy. How are we going to get more out of the regenerative agriculture, regenerative land management? And it's not purely an ecological process or ecological phenomenon. We've got to regenerate societies, regenerate human capacity, to regenerate those economies with new investments to make them work. We've got to regenerate the natural capital that we see in those places, and also the political capital to keep the momentum up, to drive change, to not have empty pledges, to make sure that we're following up on commitments, individual, national, and corporate. Biodiversity is such a fuzzy term. Intraspecific variation, interspecific variation, and at the ecosystem level. And how do we combine those in meaningful ways? How do we not exclude and have universal definitions, but make it meaningful? And it will be the research, the protocols, the themes, the ideas that are triggered from this meeting that will help us explain, help us demystify the phylogenetic, the taxonomic, and the functional diversity that we're seeking to protect, to restore, and to better manage. I think one of the key themes when we look at the 36 parallel presentations made this week are clearly the degree of collaboration, the partnership, the real joint and inclusive work that's been done. And that's fantastic. FTA is the world's #1 platform for collaborative research, development, and policy work around forest, trees, and agroforestry. Congratulations to you all. It's wonderful. It's fantastic. It's energizing. And what has been achieved in the last 10 years with leveraging, connecting, working together is just absolutely staggering. The publications, the more popular press, the social media reach through great platforms such as the Global Landscape Forum that collaborates well with FTA as well, and is a joint part of the CIFOR ICRAF structure. So here we have a very strong partnership, particularly in China, with the Chinese Academy of Science, with the Chinese Academy of Forestry, with the Chinese Academy of Agricultural Science. And we're particularly grateful to our colleagues at Kunming Institute of Botany for not only hosting us and establishing a joint mountain ecosystems program 20 years ago, but 15 years ago together to take a bold leap around tree genetic resources. And when we chose Kunming Institute of Botany as the first location for our backup storage for all of our tree collections, all of our tree accessions from around the world, it was a tremendous signal of the welcoming nature of China, the opening up of Chinese science and partnership and institutions, but also the confidence that we had in China to be that very secure and worthy partner in our joint endeavors. So yes, we've done a fantastic amount in the last 10 years, but let's look to the next 10 years. Imagine what we can achieve with the work, the platform that has been laid in place. Imagine what we can achieve by connecting to those international processes, those national level investments, and the private sector. They need answers, they need connection, they need to be able to see that we can have things that are not only financially viable, but also technically feasible, operationally deliverable, that make sense from an environmental point of view in terms of sustainability, and that are socially inclusive. So congratulations to you all. Congratulations to the organizers of this meeting. And we really look forward to an even more productive partnership in the next decade. Thank you very much for your kindness, your kind words, and listening to us.
Okay, Tony, give you my regards to Swedish colleagues who are Large Mountain, West Mountain, and Fourth Mountain. Yeah, thank you. Finally, I'd like to say a few words for this wonderful conference, and particularly we are living in the uncertain world, and the COVID proving us to sitting face to face, and luckily, and the Chinese, and together with our international team here, we're allowed have free travel and come to sitting together and to have this wonderful conference. This conference really, at the beginning, I have no idea how to do, and but with Vincent's leadership, with Alejandra and Fabia, and with, I think now I truly believe, and we can work together in despite the COVID-19 and 19, and also we can really to manage the uncertainty, dealing with the uncertainty. And also thanks for wonderful participation from all over the world. And we have nearly 300 participants, and virtually and also physically, and to participate in this conference. And particularly we have collective wisdom, and we need to pass through the media to the public, to the CBD and the other international forums. And also, my director and Sun Hang asked me, and from Community Botany, to give his excuse, because those days, and we are 1 week close to our national 100 years national celebration of a Communist Party and founded. So it's a lot of meeting and a celebration and the review process of going. So they most directors and also quite busy those days. So on behalf of the Communist Botany, Chinese Academy of Sciences, and also particularly thanks and for FTA to fund this conference, and also the Chinese Academy of Agricultural Science, and also also give the allocation for budget for CGIAR, and this allowed us to have this meeting. And also on behalf of Chinese Academy of Science, Agricultural Science, also I'd like to express the welcome and also great support from particular Chinese Academy of Agricultural Science. The delegation president led by Tang Huajun and Wu Kongming, and was in our Mountain Future site 2 weeks ago. And finally, also I'd like to thank also what's called the Chinese Academy of Forestry Science. And also when I discussed FTA conference, I went to a headquarters of CAF and talked to President Liu Sloan, and he said, and we like to support and through the long-term collaboration with CIFOR. He asked his Vice President, Madame Chai, going to visit us end of this early next month, and so she will be in our Mountain Future site in Honghe early next month to discuss long-term collaboration. Again, also thanks the Chinese Academy of Forestry to continue support our work. And I'd like to mention several institutions from Yunnan University, Xi'an Jiaotong University, Nanjing Forestry University, and also and also the Ministry for Commerce and International Trade and Institute, particularly also the INBA also come here, and also Alpine Botany Institute of Yunnan Academy Agricultural Science, and then the other participants from all over China. Thanks for coming. And finally, I'd like to particularly thank Su Yufang, and who take leadership, and because most time I was away in Honghe, and to organize my team in Kunming, and with our administrative support, particularly led by Jiang Yi, and did a wonderful job. I don't like to mention one by one, and also for our students, for scientists to participate, active participation. And finally, we have a logistics supporting team, like a technical happen, and also so without further delay, and I'd like to declare this FTA International Conference on Forestry, Tree and Agroforestry on for diverse sustainable landscape, and is a closing. And I'm looking forward to next year, and also for particularly also Mountain Future conference ongoing. And thanks everyone. And again, thanks. And so anything you'd like to say a few words for international participants and from your side?
Thanks to everybody. No further words. Lots of things, nice things have been said. We're going to take stock of all of this and move forward together. Thanks to everybody in Kunming, and thanks to everyone online as well. And wonderful 3 final closing panelists. Special warm thanks to them.